would still be there at the foot of the Disraeli Bridge. And I had a teacher, an English teacher named Bob, and he was a hardcore alcoholic. He used to take all the kids, all the English kids, to the Skid Row bar across the street at lunchtime to get hammered. And I was only 15 and I got kicked out every time, you know, so I eventually gave up. But I asked him, I said, how do I get a credit for English here? And he said, well, what do you want to do? And I'm like, well, I want to write a book. He says, great, write a book. You know, and I actually wrote out about 15 or 20 pages, you know, by pencil about I don't know what the hell it was about. Drugs, probably. I was on them when I wrote it. But, you know, eventually it just ran out of steam. It was garbage. I remember that much. And then I got kicked out of that school, too, for selling acid to some kid. You know, and that was the end of my schooling days. And, you know, then I had a lot more fun with drugs and the alcohol and stuff, and I had a bunch of shitty jobs, and they're about it in my book. I wrote all about them in this book, Punch the Boss. You know, I had some bosses. They're just petty tyrants. They're horrible. But I'll get back to them later. Well, I can do that, or I'll just read about them. But, you know, and then I discovered a really wonderful drug called cocaine, and I started shooting that stuff, and you know, that was just great. I thought, wow, now I've really discovered what great drugs are all about. I was having a lot of fun with cocaine. I was having so much fun that I couldn't really focus on anything else, especially writing. But I did discover punk. Oh no, I missed out a part where I discovered punk rock, didn't I? I just happened to be in the right place at the right time when I was 18. In 1977, I was 18, and I was an angry young man, and there was punk rock, so for me, the two really kind of went well together. And I was really grateful to have some way to vent, you know, you know, that rage and anger that a lot of adolescents feel, you know, just kids, you know, blowing off steam. And I was really glad it was there. It wasn't enough to save me from all this other bullshit later, but it sure helped. So, you know, I got into punk rock, and I kept thinking about how much fun it was to write, and I wanted to write again. So I got this punk rock fanzine together called Pages of Rage. And it was fun just to do this thing, the creative writing. And you know what, I had this thing called Ugly Homes and Kitchens, and it was just a kind of a fictional piece. And it was a lot more fun than, I based it on Ugly Homes and Gardens, you know, but we got, you know, pictures of sofas dragged in from the alley, and, you know, and just, you know, broken glass. I think we took some pictures of Dick's room at the stretch pad, and, you know, really nice stuff like that. That was a lot more fun than writing about the bands themselves, you know. I wanted to do stuff like that. But I did because it was too much work, so I just stopped writing that and got into the drugs more. There's a guy down there with a camera, look out for him, he's dangerous. But anyway, you can still get your refund back. I mean, now it's not too late. Now, where am I? I brought these cheat sheets here, and I'm not even following it, I'm just kind of babbling. But, yeah, you know, I got, you know, the whole punk rock thing was a lot of fun. But then when it started to kind of die out in the, mid to late 80s, you know, I was starting to really get wrapped up in the whole drug thing, and it just kind of snowballed, you know, no pun intended. But, you know, and after a while, and by 1991, I really wanted to get the hell away from Winnipeg. I wanted to take the geographical cure. So I went up to Vancouver, and I hate to use this shop-worn analogy, but moving to Vancouver to get away from drugs is like moving to Alaska to get away from snow. You know, it was a bad call. You know, and right away I had, you know, within 6 months or so, I had, like, you know, 5 dope dealers who would bring drugs to my door 24 hours a day. I mean, it's a drug addict's paradise out there. It is, you know. You can get a $3 rock. I mean, it's really crazy. So, you know, I saw, instead of doing any writing at all, I just did lots of drugs, and I OD'd, and a lot of bad things happened. A lot of my friends died. You know, my brother died. Well, a lot of my good friends. It was, you know, drugs really whittled down the old address book, as I said to a high school buddy of mine who gave me a ride earlier today. I don't think there's anybody in this room who hasn't lost somebody to drugs. You know, and in my case, it's more like about 30, you know, or 40. I've lost count. But, you know, I wanted to, I was watching TV. What I would do is I would get money for drugs, and I would take the drugs, and I would sit on the couch and watch TV. And that's all I would do. When I wait for more money to get drugs, and then when I got the money, I would go out and get some more drugs. And actually, I didn't have to go out. I just picked up the phone. That's Vancouver. And but you know, there's in the back of my mind, I was thinking, you know, this is all I'm going to do. If I OD for good tomorrow, again, you know, and don't get revived next time, I'd also discovered this drug called heroin, which is nice to come down off the cocaine with. But I just felt, you know, I wasn't even worried about dying so much. I just felt this spiritual death inside. I just thought, you know, I'm not doing anything, and nobody's going to say, well, at my funeral, they're not going to say, you know that Chris, he could really watch TV. Nobody can watch TV like that guy. He could just sit on the couch for 6 hours and not even get up to take a piss. You can say, oh. You know, I didn't think they were going to say that about me. I just thought, you know, like, oh, well, you know, it'd be hard. They'd dig for, you know, people who knew me. I mean, they'd say, well, he didn't cause too many fights when he was drunk. Okay, scratch. Oh, yeah, you know what I mean. They would struggle, but I just felt like I had to do something, you know. And so I said to my girlfriend, I said, you know what, I'm going to start writing. I'm going to write a book. She said, oh, good, because all you do is watch TV. And how are you going to write a book? I said, well, you can get me some paper from work. She worked at a printing shop, which is kind of handy. Well, it turned out to be handy later. So she brought me back this stack of irregularly shaped cardboard. They looked kind of like they were exactly shaped like the province of Saskatchewan. You know, they were wider at the top, and then they tapered down to the bottom. And then I found a pencil, and I started writing this book, and it was called Water, because I had this vague idea about these guys who, I don't know, they ended up in the water at the end. That was the only idea I had. And so I was writing backwards from the beginning. I thought, well, how do these guys get in this water at the end? So I started writing this story about these guys who wanted to get some more beer. I thought, a book about people who wanted to get beer. I mean, that was, you know, everybody can relate to that, right? But, you know, the thing is, I somehow finished this book, you know, by pencil, but I didn't have a laptop or a computer or anything like that, or, you know. And so I would I would write out by pen. I had this deformed fingers where the pencil was caving in my nail, and I looked like, you know, I had Quasimodo of the fingers, so I'd send these pages to my mom, like, you know, from Vancouver. I'd send it to her, and she typed it out on her computer and printed them and sent them back. And first thing I would see would be about 50, you know, typos, but there wasn't anything I could do, and I typed out some more. I wrote out some more, and I sent them back to her. And eventually, you know, we had this finished kind of semi-sort of manuscript, and I was like, you know, I finished this book, and I remember that feeling. It was kind of like the only kind of worthwhile feeling I'd had since I couldn't remember. It was just a very long time. It was like, oh wow, I actually did something, you know, and it wasn't like finishing a job for somebody who was paying you $6 an hour. It was a different feeling. I really liked it. And so I sent out some submissions to publishers, but I didn't know you were supposed to put a self-addressed envelope in them. That I just sent out these, you know, I sent out my these submissions, you know, a couple chapters to these places, and when I didn't hear back from them right away, with a huge contract offer and lots of money, and again I was going to be famous and shit. You know, that wasn't what I was looking for, but I thought, I did think that people would see what a great writer I was, because I had very low self-esteem, but a huge ego. I mean, like, it's weird. Like, they just kind of went together. You know, I felt like I was this really horrible person, but if nobody could tell, if I just pretended that I was really awesome, that they wouldn't notice that I was a piece of shit. But anyways, I was a piece of shit who'd written a book, you know, and I thought, great, you know, I got this book now. And nobody came to my door saying, well, we want to publish your book, Mr. Walter, and you know, we'll be sending you awards in the mail every month. They did not say anything, so I asked my girl, I said, well, you work at a printing company, just bind these up and we'll get our buddy Tommy to draw a cover, and then I'll have a book, you know, it'll be just like being published, kind of.